Hello everyone, welcome to this YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to build a complete full stack web application using Blazor and ASP.NET Core and also CountryData Standard package and .NET ASP. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to build an API and consume that API in Blazor using the HTTP client, and also you can use .NET ASP to run your application, both the backend and the front end together. So if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe to this channel and don't forget to hit the notification button so that anytime we drop a new video, you may receive a notification. And don't forget to like this video and also comment and share with others. So let's get started. So to get started today, we are going to use Visual Studio, and you can use Visual Studio Code, but Visual Studio make it easy, and that is the right IDE for .NET development. So let's use that. So what we are going to do is that there is a lot of template in Visual Studio already, and in today's video we want to use what the setting template called the .NET ASP starter app. And what this template this template consists of Blazor for front end and .NET ASP.NET Core for the backend. So everything is being configured, and HTTP client is also configured. For you to consume that weather forecast API, so you can just look at the similar format and build your API. So we want to use .NET ASP, so we probably going to select that template, and you can search for it. So if you search for, even if you search for something like ASP like this, you are going to get that coming in here at the first one here. So you can see .NET ASP starter app. We click on that, and in here we probably want to give it a name. So I just want to put it here. So let's go to, I have a folder here where I want to put it. So I'm going to put it so that it will be available on GitHub so that you can have access to that. So we're going to say that .NET Blazor full stack, right? So let's try to name it like this. So .NET Blazor full stack, something like this. I think the name is good. So we can go ahead and say that okay, we want to select this, and then you we are going to use .NET 9, so make sure to select .NET 9, or you can choose 8. Any of them will work perfectly. And because with .NET 9, .NET ASP was improved, so it's easy to work on .NET 9 version of .NET ASP as you compare to .NET 8. So let's choose .NET 9 for this. So we are, then you hit create. Visual Studio is going to bootstrap this project for you. So what you're going to see is that you're going to see this folder here coming up based on the name that you gave to your application. So what is happening is that when you create application with .NET ASP, what's happening is that you have .NET ASP app host, which then serve as the entry point. So that one, when you go to the program.cs, what is happening is that we are making a reference to the backend. So I can see this is going to be 9. So we are making a reference to the backend. So we can see that we are saying that app service, which happens to be the backend, and then when we come to the front end, which is the web front end here, and then we are adding a reference, and you see that we can add HTTP endpoint. So this is helping us to map the endpoint and make a reference and everything. So what .NET ASP does is that within this scope, automatically we have access, right, to the backend. So the backend and the front end is connected in a certain way. So that is good. I mean, you can do a lot of things here. You can add database, you can add Redux, cache and everything, but we want to keep this simple. The goal here is to build a full stack web application. So now when you go to this, which is the app settings, app service, right? So based on the name that you chose for your application or your project, you are going to get extension of .api service and then .web, which is the Blazor one. So .web is the Blazor front end, and the API is the backend. So basically now we have this here. So we have this Blazor entry endpoints here. So we are going to configure this so that we can connect it. But this is how we are calling, or we are making API calls. So this is using the HTTP client to do that. So we are injecting it here. So basically this is a weather forecast, something. So for us to run this, .NET 9, Swagger was not even configured as the default entry points for making your API a course, and something like this was introduced, which is the map open API. And what this does is that it add open API, and then we have this map open API. What this does is that it helps you to then configure any service you want to use. So if I want to use Postman to make my API calls, then it will be easy for me. If I want to use Swagger, then I can also configure that. Whatever you want to use, you can use it. Instead of coming up with maybe default Swagger, they have opened it up. You choose which one you want to use. So we want to go and bring Swagger back. So we go to the service, and then you say that, okay, we go to Nugget. So when we go to Nugget, what we want to do is that we want to install this ASP.NET Core to bring Swagger back. So we can bring Swagger back easy. We just install this package, and then when we come here, what we're going to do is that we are going to add the Swagger here. So the service, and then see the add Swagger. So we want to add Swagger here. So it's so let's go ahead and see the add Swagger. So let's use. So basically this is how we then bring Swagger, and then let's go ahead and do this. And yeah, we can go for this is what we want. So basically you bring the Swagger, and then you bring the Swagger UI, but when you even use the Swagger, it works. So we can go ahead and run our application for the first time. Now we have configured Swagger, so Swagger is added. So we should be able to see the interface. So we are running it Visual Studio right now. So this will run our application, and then we'll be able to see so there is an error. Let's check where the error is coming from. There is certain things that it was expecting here. So okay, what we did not save. So let's add it again. Add Swagger, and then we add this one. Let's save that, and then let's go and do it again. So what we added, we did not save that. So we're going to say that app Swagger. Let's run the application again. On this time around, this is going to run this. So you can see in our terminal everything is running. So it's going to open this interface for us. And in here with the .NET ASP, we are running both the front end and the back end together, and this is awesome. So you can have a lot of services, and this happens even when you are building something like microservices, where you have a lot of services and then you want them to run at the same time, right? In the basic concept, we say that we want them to run at the same time so that we'll be able maybe to access one of them. Maybe in a microservice, one service may depend on other services, and some of them may, unless something happens here, and then this will pick it up and all that. So you'll be able to do that, testing your application locally before maybe you deploy it to Azure or something like that. So here we have let's go to the API, and then let me go and see that Swagger. So let's go and see that Swagger /index.html. so HTML like this, and then this is a weather forecast. So this is the API that we have here, and when we make a request like this, we are getting this weather forecast coming in, and this is connected to the front end. So this is we can also make the request in the Blazor front end, and we get the same response that we are getting here, something similar if not the same. So let's go and open the front end too. So this is the beauty of the .NET ASP. So here we have hello as a home page, and then we have this counter something. This is configured in the Blazor front end. So this is just a counter stuff. This is not coming from the back end, but here is where the back end and the front end is connected, right? So here you can see that we are getting some kind of request, and this is coming from the back end. So with the Blazor, with the .NET ASP, we can check the logs. So if you want to check the log, you can check resources, and then you can go in there. So you can just see something here. So let's see the front end like this. Whenever you make a request, you can see that we see everything here. We see that we can see the stamp levels and everything, and then we can see the trace. So if you make a certain request, we can see that we just make this is disconnected. We did something that is not found. There is a post request. So we made a post request. So you can do that. You can also do metrics here, and this is the beauty of .NET ASP. So you can check all the requests. This was a get request. So this video is not about .NET ASP, but I want to show you a lot of things that was improved. How awesome .NET ASP is. So let's go ahead and say that okay, we are going to create our own backend. So one thing is that there is a package we are going to use, which is CountryData Standard, and this package is a .NET package that can help you to get all country data. So we basically want to fetch a country data from the backend and display it in the Blazor frontend. That is basically what we are going to do. Yeah. So what you need to do is that you need to pick and then search for CountryData Standard. So maybe on your browser like that standard. So you can search for this CountryData Standard, right? So this is what we're going to use. It's basically Nugget package that helps you to do that, and then you can go to the GitHub repo and see how everything works here. So you can see that this package now has some kind of developer trying to contribute, and this is an open source project. So you can come here, fork the repo, go through the repo and check if there is something that you can add, or there is a section that you can improve, and this is how you can also contribute to an open source project. So it's very awesome project. So try your hands on it. Even this documentation, you can add something, you can improve certain grammar, or you can improve a certain section, and this is a contribution stuff. So you can see I also contributed to this package, and it's very nice. So you can go back to Nugget and let's check the downloads and everything here. You see that a lot of people are trying to download this package, and then just a recently version, and it's used by this platform, and the version, which is a recently version, has about 6K download or something like that. So it's there is that kind of adoption in there. So if we want to use this lately, we can go ahead, you can use the .NET CLI to also install it. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, basically you need to use the .NET CLI. So you can just copy this command, and then it will install the package for you, and then you can also use the package manager console in the Visual Studio. But we can pick this name, right, and then go to our Visual Studio here, and then we want to go to Nuggets from here. So we set manage packages here, and then we go here, and then we paste the name here. So we are going to install the package, and it say that we should bring in the country here. So country, and it's going to search, and then you can see this is the one here. So we are going to install this. Boom. So now we have this right here. So it's going to be very simple API, but we are going to use the package a lot. So before we can use the package, we are going to create something like service, and then we have our controllers, right? So basically this is no controller based API, but we are going to build a controller based API. So let's try to clean this one up. So let's delete this one right here. Let's go ahead and delete these two from here, and then what we are going to do is that we are going to add another service. So say builder service add controller. So okay, service, okay, should bring in the service and see that add controllers, right? So then this tends to be a controller base. Let's go here. We're going to see that use controller. Let's check. So map controller instead. So let's see map. Okay, map controllers. Okay, good. So we have this use controller, map controller, and that is good. So this is very, very good. So now we can go ahead and have a certain folder here called controllers. So let's create a folder where we are going to put our controller in. So basically when you create this, what happens is that it gives you that kind of minimal API version, so that format, and you can change it to be a controller based API, which we are doing right now. So I'm going to create another folder called service. So we have service here, and then we are going to create an interface to represent all the method that we are going to get from the country data. So the country data have a lot of method: get country flag, get country code, get country phone code. So if you are working on anything related to country, you can use this package. So when you come here, when you go to the GitHub, you can see that you can get all this, and it's ISO 3 iOS data, right? So you can see that it's ISO data, right? So you can say ISO data, so you can say it like that. So that is what it use. So it's always updated, and it's I mean the data is very secure, so it's coming from a good source. So if you want to get country data, phone code, country, everything, then you can try the package, and you can see there is a samples and everything. You can use the documentation. So now if I want to get country phone code, you see get country by phone code. So when I put this, I'll get those country information. So I call this method. So this method or these functions are in the package. So we are going to tap into that to get some kind of data that we are requesting. So that is one thing that we are going to do. So let's go and create an interface. So we are going to call it CountryData Service. So let's go and create an interface here, and let's call it CountryData Service. iCountry. Let's make this big. iCountry. So CountryData Service. CountryData Service here. So this is an interface, and what this interface is going to do is that it's going to represent some data that we're going to use. So we're going to say task here. I'm going to make it a string because those things, those data that is going to come is going to be some kind of a string something. So let's close it and say get country, get country by code. So it means that this one, if we want to get country data let's say get country by code. Let's make it by code. So it means that this section, when we enter country code, we should get the country information, and then you see that it taking the country code. So this is one thing that we're going to do. We're also going to have a task, and it's not everything that we are going to use in the front end, but I'm just want to show you, I mean, what you can do with the package, right? So we are going to use maybe a few of them in the front end to consume the data for you to see what is coming from the back end. But in the front end, you can make the back end, you can make a lot of requests, but the front end, we're going to use a few methods in there, right? So we are also going to have another task, and then we say that, okay, this will return a series of strings. So we're going to say string, and then we say that get country by phone code. So get country get country by phone code. So it means that when we enter the phone code here, we should be able to get the country information. So this one taking the country phone code, and then get country data. So this is one give us all the country data, and what we are going to do is that we are going to introduce some kind of pagination, right? So that the best practice is that when you're using the package, maybe the package will bring in a lot of data, right? So when you make a request, there's a lot of data coming in, so you don't want to do that. So what you can do is that you do some kind of filtering or sorting, or introduce some kind of pagination. So let's go ahead and see that get country data sync, right? So this give us all the data that we need. So it comes in with the phone code and everything. So this one get country, and this is not going to take in only the phone code. We are going to say that this is going to, first of all, as we always do in the .NET hint offset. So we have offset here, and instead we're going to start from 1, and then we are going to say hint, then the limit that we want to set to is 20 here, and then we have a string of search. So it means that you can also search for a country. So we're going to say that search query. So search query here, let's type this search query, and then we say that, okay, we need something like search query. Okay, search query. So search query, that will help us to, so basically it's going to be null, like that. So this will help us to introduce some kind of pagination. Let's try to terminate this. So let's save this, and the next thing we want to do, get country flag. So all these things are something that you can do, and then get, so in the package there is a method that can give you a certain country flag, and this is very awesome. So we're going to say that this is also going to return a string, and then say that get country flag. So get country flag, let's make it big. So get country flag is sync, and what we're going to do is that it's going to take in a code. So when we pass in the country code, it's basically going to give us let's make this one a country code, small like that. So we say country code, so country code, and so when we pass in the country code, then it will give us that country flag, right? So the next thing we want to do is that get regions, right? So basically every country also has a region. So this package comes with a lot of regions for packages, countries. So let's go in there and hit another one called task, and it's also return a series of regions. So in here it's going to return a series of regions. So in the package there is this interface in there that is being defined. So the region is parts, like, so let me show you that. So when we go in, we can see that this is going to be a list, because basically we want a list of a country, and it's going to be region. So you can see that this package comes with regions. So it's kind of an interface in there, right? So let's give it the proper name. So we're going to say that get country, get regions, right? So let's spell it well, get regions. So get regions by country code. So it means that if we want to get a certain regions, we pass in the country code, and then it then give us a list of that country region. So the first is that we also have a country currency in this package. So this is very awesome if you are working on a certain project and you need all this data. So I'm going to say that. So now we want to get a country currency, and basically we are going to pass in country code. So let's go and see another task like this, and they say this is going to be I enumerable. So this is going to be I enumerable like that. I enumerable, right? Okay. And this is then coming in. So currency 2 is coming from the package, so you can get currency, the currency interface coming in from the package, and then in here we are going to say get country, get currency. Let's say get currency sync. So async like this, and then we have this. So this is the interface that we are going to create a service and implement this interface in there to try to create some logic to talk to the package to get a data, right? So that we can then display that one in our Blazor frontend. So the next thing that we are going to do is that we are going to create a service that we implement. We inject this and then implement this. So we are going to create a service. So we call this one CountryData Service. Let's first of all inject this interface coming, and then let's implement the interface. So boom, now we have this interface that we are going to work with. So we are going to create a logic here, then this logic would interact with the CountryData standard, the standard package, to give us a country data. So that's basically what we do. So when you check their documentation, now you can see that before we can use the package, we need to call something we call the country helper, right? So this is initialize, or this create an instance of the whole package. So let's go and inject that one to here. So we're going to say that private read only, and then what we are going to say is that we are going to say that country, let's go here and say country helper. So country helper, something like that. No, let's go and bring this one. So country country helper, and let's create a constructor of country helper, and this is coming from the package. And now let's create a constructor for this. So now we have this. So it means that now we have the instance of the package so that we be able to use it. So the first one we want to work with is get the CountryData sync. So this is basically giving us all the data. So what we want to do first of all is go into the package, because we said that the package has a lot of methods that we can then interact with to get a certain data coming in. So first of all, we need to get all the countries from the package. So we say that countries, and then it going into the package. We don't want to return it yet. So it goes in, and then what is, it's giving us this country data. So we don't want just countries, we want country data. So let's go and let's go to the package here. We want get country data. So this has all the country data coming in. So flag, regions, and everything, we can get all of them from this method, right? So what we're going to say that when we are working with this package, and this this is none, right? And our search query too. So let's write if statement here. So what we're going to do is that we're going to say that if this string, right, that we have in here, right, it's not, right? It's none or empty like this, and our search query too. So when we search for a certain data and then it's not in, right, what we do is that we then want to return some kind of an error, right, response. But when it's there, we then return the data. So we then gonna say that if we first of all want to fetch the data here, the Copilot is trying to suggest that's not what we want. So let's go ahead and say that search query here. First of all, we want it to go to lowercase here, and to lower, and we say that countries. So now we have access to the countries. So what we are trying to do is that we'll be able to search a country and by name, and then the data will come in. So let's use this logic here. We are going to go ahead and say that we have countries. So let's say that country data is right. So we don't want everything to be perfect. So let's see country data like that, and then it's going to go to countries like this. And what is going to happen is that to where we basically want x lowercase contain the search query, right? Okay, good. What the Copilot is suggesting is not what we want. So let's write this logic here. So where this is not what we want. So let's start writing everything from scratch again. So we say country dot countries is called to countries dot where. Let's try to bring in some kind of x. So we say that x is called to, so okay, it's called to this, and then we are saying that when x dot, right, country name, because we just want a country name, we want to search by name. So when the country name that we are trying to enter in here, right, so country name lower to lower, right, contain, so to lower, and then this is kind of method. So let's try to do that. Let's close this. So contain, so what we are trying to search is contain the search query. So if the search query is part, and then what's happened is that if the search query is part, we're going to see that to list. So to list, let's zoom this more. Let's see, 150. Okay, let's make this small so that we'll be able to see what we are trying to type. Okay, so to list. So when we get the search query is part, so we are saying that the name, we want to search a country by its name. So when we go in, when the countries and name, what we just type, what we just search is contained, it means that if we have it in the data that is coming from the backend, in the package, what we do is that we say that to list, right? So to list like that. And what's happening is that we call this something like this. So this is not giving us to the list. And why are we not getting? Okay, so boolean is not. So let's check this one. War hint. So when the var, we go in there, and then if. Okay. So why are we not getting this? So it's giving us error, which we don't know where it's coming from. So let's debug the code. We have this here. So we say country where if the name is lower, and if it contain the search query. Oh, okay. Let's close this with some kind of this. Okay, good. Now we are getting it. So if it happens that way, what we want to do is that we then return we work on the pagination. So we say var pagination. So we then want to use our pagination here. So let's go ahead and populate our pagination. So what we're going to do that we're going to use the var pagination. So we say pagination is equal to, let's bring in our countries here, and then see that skip what we want to skip is that we want to skip 1. So we'll say offset -1. So, and then we want to multiply that one with our limit. So we take in limit. So I think this is what we want. We don't want any tick here. So the tick supposed to be some kind of, let's check down. So country, then it's offset, we just move in -1, and we multiply that one with this. So when we multiply that one, and then we see that tick limit, so there is an error coming in. Let's check why. So we see that the name tick does not exist in the current scope. So why is that the tick does not exist? So let's check that, because okay, so the tick is not coming. Okay, so why are we? Let's debug this one right now and see why the tick is not coming, because we need to get the tick. So let's debug this, and you can see why are we not getting this. So we need to have a close thing here. Okay, so it was also another problem from we using the closing brackets. So let's go ahead and then also check that if our pagination, right? So let's write this logic and see that if our pagination is equal to any, so if there is no, if we populate the pagination and there is no data coming in, what we do is that we return some kind of error and say response and say that no data found. So it means that there is no data. But if we populate our pagination and there is a data, we return that. So this is what we want to do. So this gives us all the data coming from the package with pagination, and it's very nice to do that too. So now the rest is gonna be easy for us. So we then see that, let's try to improve this logic. So return task here, and then what we are going to see that we're going to see the form results like that. And then we want to, because it's coming in, so we want to then serialize this thing. So we say that JSON convert. Oh, this is covenant. So we want to turn everything into a JSON format coming in. So JSON converter coming in from this package, and don't serialize. So we then want to serialize object. So serialize object, this one, and then what's happening is that we pass in our pagination coming in. So with pagination, what we see that formatting, and then we're gonna see that formatting should be gonna capital letters, and then see that indeed, right, intended. Okay, let's use the intended. So this will help us to the package to, the response to come in the something like in JSON format. So let's do it like this down, and then we close it. So this is like improved version of what we used to have. So the next thing we want to do is get country by code. So get country by code is kind of, we go ahead and see that we go into the package and say var country. So all this method is already coming from the package. So country, then we say it's called to, we bring in the country helper. So in here, let's bring in the helper like that. So we say that country helper, we say that get country by code, which is already there, and then we pass in the code. So the code that we are going to enter here, we pass in, and then if it is null, we return no data found. But if not, we then trying to convert it to JSON format, and then we return that. So that is good. So get country by phone code to is the same. So it's the same thing, just that we change the method. So we can even go ahead and copy that. So we then do that. So the same thing, because when you enter the phone code to, it's also give us a country information like this. So this one and this one are the same. So this one is just a country code that we are trying to enter, and this one is just a country phone code that we are trying to enter. At the end of the day, all of them return the same stuff. So let's go where we want to get a country flag. We see the var flag, and also we go in there. So there is this method in the package that give us a country flag. So get country flag emoji, right? So this one give us a country flag. So when we get that, we return that, and then get phone code. So which one that we need to install? So get phone code by country short code or something like that. But we have get region. So let's go and say get country currency sync. So var currency. So let's go ahead and get currency in. So this return a currency coming in. So get country currency, and then this basically accept phone code. I mean, because get currency, we need to have a phone code in there. So let's go to our interface. I think that get currency, we have, I mean, we see that we need to have a string of country code. So let's say code, because we need to pass in a code, a country code to basically get in. So then in here we pass in the code to this. Okay, good. So this will give us a country code, and let's go ahead and get the country regions. So this will also give us a country region. So we say var regions, then we go into the method and then we return this. So what the Copilot suggested, that is not what we have in the pack. So let's go and see that get country region by phone code. So basically this is what we have. We have a method that gives us all the country data, but basically this is what we are going to use most, and this is very awesome. So this gives us all the country data, phone flag and everything. And so let's try to add a comment. So this is basically, let's add a comment here to make it better. Get country data with pagination set, and then let's go ahead and see that this one is get country by phone code, right? So when we enter by code, so when we enter the country code, we get the country data, country information coming in. So this also get country by phone code. So it means that when we enter country phone code with, and then this is giving us a country flag, and we can go ahead and see that this. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so this is basically it. So what we need to do is that we need to then register those services that the interface in this program.cs. So before then, we need to make sure that we register the CountryData Standard package. So what we're going to do is that we are going to go here and then add service to the container now. So we are going to say builder.service here, and then what we are going to say is that add scope. So we want to add it as a scope, right? So we first add our service interface here. Okay, so this is basically helping us to use our interface coming in. And then let's use the package here. Let's try to register the package here. So add scope. So we are adding it as a scope and a country helper. So we then import this, or we use the CountryData Standard package. So now this is all we need to do in our controller, in our program.cs. So now let's go and create our controller, which then is going to expose the service. So let's create another controller, and we're going to say that country data controller. So CountryData Controller, and then we are going to have this, and let's tell ASP.NET Core that this is controller. So we are going to see that API controller. Let's import the MVC coming in. So now we have the MVC, and then we're going to say that the route here is going to be an API. So let's say that API, because we are going to indicate the rest, and here let's make sure that this is a controller base. And one thing that we need to do is that we need to bring in the service. So read iCountry service. So we need to then use that, and we need to create a constructor for this. So we do that, and it's a generate constructor. So now we have the service here. We can go ahead and say that we then want to create our endpoint. So we say that http get country data, and then we have to make sure we have this. So this is basically this is going to give us all the data that we need. So we can say that this is a country data coming in, and this one is using the pagination. So we have the offset. That is offset is where we start from, and then the limit that we want to. So we want to get a data from 1 to 20, and then we can also search. So when we type in a name, it's supposed to come in. But one thing that we need to do is that we have to make sure that these are the form queries coming in, so that we'll be able to make it better. So in .NET, we say that form this is supposed to be form query. So now we have these things here. The next thing that we need to do is that we need to go ahead and do the rest. So now this is a form query. So let's go ahead and then bring in another endpoint, the rest of the endpoints the Copilot suggested for us. So let's go and see. This is just a simple thing because we have already interact with the package in the service. So we are just using the service here, and then it's trying to give us all these things coming in, so currency and everything. So this is all we need. This is what we have in our service. So it's basically we getting flag, but as I said, this endpoint, which is the country data, give us all the data we may need to display in the front end. So this one is me showing you how the package works and some of the things that you can do with the package if you are working with any country data related stuff. So you can get flag, you can get regions, you can get currency, and these are the things that is built in the country data standard package. So you can go and check it out and then use it. It's free and it's offline. So let's try and see that what we have here is going to work for us here. So we are trying to run the .NET ASP here, and then let's see if everything is working. Let's check our terminal. So let's close the one that was working recently. Let's close everything. So let's run the application again and see if it's going to open. Okay, now the ASP is working. Let's go to the backend. Let's check the .NET Swagger. So this is the endpoint we have, and we can see that in here we can go ahead and make more requests. So if we do that, first of all, we get 20 data showing it up because that is the limit. So I can even say that I want 2. So 1 and 2, and we hit that, we get only 2 countries coming in, and this will give us a first 2 countries in the world based on the alphabetical order. So this is coming from the package. So in here we have that working. So let's try to enter a country code. So I'm from Ghana, I'm going to say Ghana. So if I put in Ghana here, you can see I'm getting Ghana coming in. So it means that then our API is working. So if I enter country flag, if I want to get the country flag, I can see that Ghana from here, and then when you do that, you can see this is a Ghana flag. This is Ghana flag. It's very nice, and this is coming from the package. So you can see that you don't need any third-party packages or go and pay for any pay service. You can do everything offline in this package. So let's see if I want to get regions in Ghana. So if I hit Ghana, sorry, I'm using Ghana, I'm from Ghana, so I have to use Ghana, right? So this is giving us regions coming in Ghana. That is good. And let's see the currency here in Ghana. So you can see that if I search for Ghana like that, I can then get the currency coming in, and this is very good. So this is basically, you can do a lot with the package. So you can check the GitHub repo, check the nuggets and everything. You're going to see a lot of things there, but we just want to keep it very simple so that you are learning how to work with this package, but you're also learning how to build a complete full stack application, making the API calls to the back end and everything. So let's go back to the front end. So now let's go back to the front end and try to set things up in there. So first of all, what we are going to do is I'm going to create a certain interface here to represent what we have, because in the front end we are not going to install the CountryData Standard. If you like, you can install that, but maybe if you are working with a different framework like React, which does not support this library, right? So we want everything to come from the backend. So let's create an interface to represent the currency, the country, and everything, right? So what we're going to do here so let's close the backend. From here, we are going to delete this HTTP clients coming in, and let's go to the component pages. So we are going to figure everything out from scratch. So let's go to the home page. This is the home page saying hello world. You can see that this is the weather forecast page. So we don't want that. We have deleted it, so let's delete that coming in. And then we have our Blazor, Canter, We can leave that one if we want, but the goal is that you can you can still keep it, right? So we are going to create something we call client, and that is where we are going to do our API calls. And we are going to create an interface that is going to represent. So let's create a simple folder, and this is a simple structure we are creating by ourselves. Let's create something here, another folder called interface. So inside the interface, what we are going to do is that we are going to create in country, so which is kind of contain a country information. So let's say country, and then inside that we first have a country. So inside the country we have a public string coming in like that. So this is how the package is being structured, and they say that we have country name, we have country flag. So this is going to be country flag because that is how we want to show it. So I'm going to say country flag. So let's try that. It's a public string. Okay. Oh, public string country flag. So we have that, and then we have country phone code. So we have country phone code. For now we say phone code. Okay, it sounds good. So phone code, and then what we are going to do is that we are going to do country public country shortcode. So public string like that, and then we're going to say that country shortcode. So this is how we then represent. And then let's go ahead and create regions. So public here, public regions. Okay, so region coming in, let's make the one shortcode. So this is going to help us to then talk to the backend properly and based on the data coming. And then we have currency too, which is also having some kind of interface. So we have this public class face. We probably gonna stick with name. We don't want to do any symbols. So let's save this one, and basically this is the interface we need to create. So before we go ahead and create anything like pages and everything, let's create another component called client. And what this client is going to do is that it's going to use the HTTP client to make API calls to the backend. So this is very good. And let's go ahead and then see that CountryData.client. So let's create another class here. So I'm going to create a class called CountryData.client, and what I'm going to do is that it's going to inject HTTP client. So we see that HTTP client, and then coming in like that. And what we're going to do is that we're going to see that this, there's so many ways to inject this, so I just prefer this one. See that this, so let's do it this way. So we have this coming in, so we have this in. We can go and see that public read only HTTP client, and then we create a constructor for this here. So this is good, and now we are going to make the API record. So the first one is we getting the country data. So we see that public async here, get country data offset. So country data offset, search query, and limit, and then so this is making a request to that one. So let's go and do another one. So get country by code, and it said API country, then we pass in the code. So let's do another one. So Copilot is suggesting, and it's right. That is what we want. Get country flag. Remember, we have the flag, and then we have this. Okay, and then we have public get country region by code, and then we have the last one, which is our currency. So basically, that is what we are doing. So get currency, country currency. So this is basically we're using the HTTP client to make some kind of request. we can go to backend and check our controller and see that if what we are seeing here is right. So you can check that we have the data, we have the flag and the code. So code, we can also go to here with API country flag code, right? So that is it. So it means that this one is good. So let's start from here. API currency, API regions, and then this is what we have. So basically this is we using HTTP client to make a request, right? So we can get regions here. So regions coming in, and then we get country flag, and then we get country data. So the next thing that we want to do is creating the pages. So we're going to create a lot of pages in here, which based on what we want to display. And the first one is going to be the home page. What we want to show in the home page is some kind of we displaying the country data information. So this is how we do. You can build a full stack application with the ASP.NET Core with .NET ASP and then using Blazor here. So you can see it's very easy. So now we want to show, we have our HTTP client here, which is going to make a request, API calls to this endpoint that we have specified here. But one thing that we need to do is that we need to show something to the user, right? So you want to see something, and that we create pages in Blazor. So now we are in the world of Blazor. So let's dive in deeply. So in the context of Blazor, it's kind of easy for us to work on a lot of things. So what we are going to do is that we are going to create pages, and basically we already have our home page here working. So in our home page, let's go in here. We want to delete everything, right, and leave everything like that. And then even the page title, we can say home page. But what we want to do is that we want to first of all inject the interface. So using, basically we are going to say that at, so for us to using what we're going to say country data. So this is Blazor fullstack dot web, right? It's a dot component. So let's go to the component and let's go to the interface, right? And we want to use the interface. So is it interface or interface? So we say that it's interface. Good. And let's go ahead and then also say using the same thing. And then in here, what we are going to do that we're going to the HTTP client like that. And what we want to use is that we want to use the client. So we have this one and the client is not working. So let's see why. So it's expecting something because we have to make it this some kind of, it's not using, we want to inject it. So we say that injectable. So we say that inject instead of saying that. And then in here, let's see, we get this client and then we name it like that. So now we have our HTTP client is also in the home page. So the HTTP client is making a request somewhere, and we are also going to show something. So when you make the request, the data that is coming, we want to show it in the real world, to the user. So because this is going to very interactive mode, we can then tell Blazor that render some kind of so render mode is going to be very interactive. So let's save that, and this is what we will need to do. So the first thing that we need to do is say private. We need to make sure that we are going to write code. So we see that code here, and then we put in something like that. And I'm going to say private read only. So private string, right? So let's go and do that. A string of search query. You see, we already have a search query. So search, we can say search country data, right? Search country is going to go to string empty, right? Okay. So for now, we don't have anything. And then so we're going to say private list. So list is going to take in country. And in here, we want to make it for countries like that. And then we're going to have this kind of private. So let's try to add this thing here. We're going to say private hint offset. So the offset initially is also 1. And then so let's try to terminate this here. I'm going to say private. The limit is initial one is 20. And let's go ahead and say private get a previous one. So what we are trying to do is that in the UI, you'll be able to move forward and you'll be able to move back. So let's go ahead and say that private boolean, right? Boolean, and we are going to say that can go, right? Can go previous. And then we do this like that. And then we see that private can go next. So can go next, we have the country in here if it is not known. So we have the countries which we have already listed it here. And when we are going to say that, okay, if we want to go next, what happens is that we say no, okay, and the country is go to the limit. So as much as we move to the next, we don't want to show him. Always we want to stick. So when we move to the next, we still want to display 20 country showing up, right? Okay, and then we see that private, maybe private, some kind of a string of error messages when there is an error. Also, we don't want to do this. Or this is the suggest by the Copilot. So this is it. And there is one thing that we want to do. We then want to say protected here. So protected, right? So protected here, and you see the override is saying we want to load in some kind of data coming in. So don't worry, we are going to create that one in a minute. So initially, so this one will load the data for us, and inside that this function is where we then specify, we use the HTTP client to make the request. So anytime we run the application, this will then initialize the load, and then it will fetch, it will make the request, or it will call the HTTP client, then HTTP client will also make the request. So let's go and create that method right now. So I'm going to say that it's going to be private, right? So it's a private async task. So where we want to basically it's a async task like that. So we want to make here like async task, and then we call it the name that we have in here. So is that load countries? Okay. So the Copilot is trying to suggest something for us. Let's check if it is what we want. So this is not what we want at all. So let's go ahead and write everything ourselves. So it's load. We can even copy it from here, and we put it in here. Okay, good. So when we get this, we are not going to see that. We're going to see this, and then we are going to use try catch. So we see try, and then we see this, and then maybe when there is a catch, we know what to do. So the Copilot can make the code is something, but in here, let's see catch, right? So when there is an error, we're going to catch that, right? So let's go ahead and write our logic. So we say var resource. So the response then go to use the HTTP client, right? So they're saying that there is no HTTP client coming in. Microsoft, you can use the local variable HTTP before it's declared. So let's check where it was declared. You can use the local variable before it was declared. So we don't know why they are saying that. Let's check why. So what is the solution? But it's supposed to be like that. So let's check, and then you see countries. This is not what we want. So countries, it's called to here too. We need to use JSON, some kind of JSON serializer. We need to serialize this. So we are still getting an error saying that, let's find out why we are getting that error coming in. So it turns out that there was kind of error, but this is going to take a lot of time. So for us to move forward, I have the code here. Let me put the code here. Let's discuss. Let me put this code here for us to discuss, and it's going. So basically what we are trying to do is very easy. We say that, as I said earlier on, go next, go previous. Go previous is when we go back, right? So less than 1, and then we say that go next, and when we go next, we still want to display the total amount that we have in here. And then we have this function where this is coming from Blazor, which is invoke, right, the components when it starts. So when you start application, this one will load everything in, and then we are creating this private function here where we are using the HTTP client here to make a request, right, to get the country data sync, which has the endpoint. And then it's basically, so when you run application, it will load this, and this will then use the HTTP client to make a request. So then when there is an error, the error will pop up here for us to see. So the next thing is that we need to go and bring in the UI too. It's very easy. It's very basic UI that I have in here. So we need to bring in the UI, and this is going to be the UI, right? So basically the UI we have is just normal. We don't have the full code. Okay, so we can leave that. Okay, so we can save this. So basically this is a kind of a UI that we implemented, right? And this is showing us an error, and then it's taking the search query. So we use this one, and then we have this input here taking the search query. So we search by name as a placeholder. We have this button that when we click, and then say search, right, and then it's calling the search. So this is a search button right here, and then you use the search query. So, and then we have this table trying to display the data we have. So this is trying to loop through the, and then it show us this data, else we are saying that no country found. And these are the button that is calling the previous and the next one. So this is very easy one to do. So let's go ahead and then hit run, and now we are going to see if this is going to work or it's not going to work. So let's go back to, there was an error coming in. There was a 2 error coming in. Namespace. Okay, so you see we are making a mistake here. We need to also do some kind of configuration in this program.cs to make sure that the HTTP clients also understand what we are doing. So here we are going to bring in the country data, right? So this is going to be CountryData Client, which that is the HTTP client that we have. So country client, this is what we have, right? So basically this is what we have, and this is coming from the client section. So when you check here, let's go to components. We have a client. So this is the HTTP client that we have. So this is it, the country client, right? So that is one thing that we need to put into our program.cs here. So yeah, so we need to fix that, and it will fix everything for us. So now let's save this, and let's go and run our application and see if there is an error or it's going to run. Everything is coming in. Okay, so let's hit our front end. Boom, now we have this here. So now you can see we have a country coming in. So there is no country phone code. This is okay, this is phone code. So country code coming in, and this is phone code. So we have missed how we have arranged this. Let's go and fix that very easy as possible. So phone code okay, coming in. Okay, so how is arranging is not what we want. So let's go to the home page right here. From here, basically we have this country name, country flag. So when we check country name, country flag, phone code, so this should be here is phone code. So let's see if this is supposed to be country code. So this basically should be phone code. Let's see if it's going to be phone code. Do we have phone code in here? Okay, phone code, and then this is going to be country code. So let's save that. Okay, I think the interface, we do not have this country country code. Okay, country short code. Okay, let's save that. Let's refresh and see if everything is going to be arranged, because we are using this as a table. So boom. Okay, so the phone code is not coming in. We are not getting phone code. So let's go to the backend. When we make a request, do we get a phone code coming in? Okay, so phone code is coming in here, but in the front end we are not getting any phone code. Why is it that there is no phone code showing up? So let's go to the backend. I don't know what's the interface. Let's check the interface. So the interface, we have flag, we have phone code here. We already have phone code, but it's not showing up in the client. It means that we are doing something wrong. Let's check the home page. Why is it that we are not getting the phone code? So let's see, it's phone code. Let's save that. Refresh that. Okay, it's working now. We are getting full. So it was the spurries, right? So this is coming from the CountryData Standard package, which is giving us all the country data here. We have the country name. So we have the country flag showing up here. So we have country flag. We have a country code, and then we have these things coming in. It's very nice. So we can go next. So you see, when we go next, it's going because of that. But still we are showing a certain number of a country that we want to show. We don't want to load them at once. So we have a certain number that we are showing up. So let's go in here and check the numbers that we are showing. 10 numbers. So here we can increase that, and then we will say that we want to show 20 numbers. So this code is going to be available on GitHub. You can pick it up and go through and see how you build the API, then you consume it in the front end. It's very easy to do that. So let's go here. So now we are going to show more countries. So we are showing 20 at a time. So you can see it's coming in, and because we have the pagination here, we can also search for Ghana. I'm going to search for Ghana. So when I search for Ghana, you see the searching tool is working for us. So this is basically the home page, and we are trying to go ahead and then give. So let's refresh so that you load all the data coming. So this is very easy. If you are building an application and then you need something like country flag, phone code, country code, currency, and everything, you can show all the currency coming in. So we can even say that we want to show currency, but currency coming in with a lot of things. So let's create another stuff where it will show currency. So we can go ahead and create home page that basically showing get country code, get country region. So we can get all country regions to coming in. So let's create another page here. You can pick this code and play around with it, add more things to that. So we are going to create another Blazor component, right? And then I have the UI, so I'm going to bring it in. But as we did here in the we're going to bring in all these things, all the interface and everything like that into this region country. So this is supposed to be a Blazor component, not a class. So let's go and add again. there's a Blazor component, and we want to name it like that. We want to name it like this. So this is the name. It's my region by code. So it means that we are talking about getting region by code. And then let's go to the home page and pick everything here. And one thing that we're going to do at the top is that we are going to do let's put this thing here, but we need to give it a page. So in Blazor, this is how we do pages. So when you check the home page, this is the home page, right? We can copy that, then we give it a page name here. Instead of this, we can go ahead and say slash maybe region by code or something like that. So we can do that here, region by code. So this is the page that we have. So this is basically going to give us all the regions, and so when we search a country by its code, and then it pop up and then give us all the regions in that country. That is very nice. So you can pick it up and work with currency. We are going to also create another one for currency. So when we type in the country code, we should get currency. So let's add this to functionality too. So we are going to add another, we are going to add another page, which is going to be a currency. So let's do that at the top where we see that currency by country code. So that is going to be the page. And it's basically that when we enter currency code, we should be able to get all the, get that currency. Or when we enter the country code, we should be able to get the currency of that country showing up in the Blazor, and the DTSP client is taking care of that. It's making the request to the backend and everything. So here, the next thing that we need to do is that we need to take care of the routing stuff. So in Blazor, there is a layout and there is a navigation. There is main layout. There is navigation, and there is a lot of things. So you need to make sure that you go to the nav menu, and then we are going to so let's go to the layout nav menu here, and this is where we specify the route that this thing should navigate to, right? So we will say that the home page, we are using the navigation link, and I say we navigate, right? So this is the first home page. So we can then even comment on it and say that maybe okay, so this is a home page stuff, right? And then this is the counter one, and then this is the weather forecast. So we can remove the weather one. What we're going to do is that we're going to bring in the currency one. So now we have currency here. So we have currency, and then we're going to have in this one too. Let's bring the region one too. So we have currency and we have region. So this is going to be very interesting one. So let's go down like that, and then we copy that one, and then we paste it here, and then we can even change it. So it's everything set. So this is the route which we have already specified in the pages that we have, right? So now if we run the application, we are going to see currency and regions, but when we click on those pages, things are not going to work because we have not put in anything in that pages already. So you can see we have currency regions, right? So currency already, now we have only the title in there. So we're going to put in the UI. So I already have the UI. For us not to waste time, I'm going to bring it. It's very easy. It's just a Blazor component, right, that you can then put in over there. So I'll make sure that the code is available. You can go through. Yeah. So let's go to here to the country one. So this is the region one. So this is basically the region one. We have already put in this. So always make sure that you have this, and then you have section where you see that it's very interactive mode. So let's bring in the whole UI, which help us to search for country based on their when we put in country code, we should be able to get some kind of a country. We should be able to get a country regions, right? So that is the goal here. So this is regions. So let's go and see that dot region. So the region name here should come. Okay, so the one that we copied, so let's write name here, boom, and let's make sure that this is short code. This too is supposed to be a name. So I'm going to explain everything to you right now. So this is going to be short code. So it's like what we did in the home page, right? We have this property here trying to represent how the data is going to come from the backend. So we have this region, which is the interface we created, and then we also have this get country by distance. We try to get the region here and everything in here. So we make sure that get country region here is there. We make sure that is kind of JSON object, right? So that we'll be able to show in there. So this is get country. This is the task. So when we run application, this is the method that we want it to run. The DTP client will run that for us. So basically that is it. It's very easy. So when we run this, we're now going to see some kind of the UI in where we want to get country region. So let's go ahead and click on this thing, and then let's go to region, and in here it's trying to tell us to enter the country region. This is the heading, right? So when we see that GH, right, so when I enter Ghana like that, we are not getting any data coming. So the data is not showing. Why? Maybe we are making an error in section. So let's go and debug and see why it's not working. So here, if you want to get regions in the backend and we're trying to hit this, it's giving us regions, but it's not working in the front end. So we don't know why. So when we enter something, it's not coming in. So let's go to the DTP client and make sure that it's the correct endpoint that we hit. So let's go here, and this is regions. Then we pass in this. Okay, so let's check why is it that it's not working. It's not loading in the currency page regions, right? We are not getting everything. So what we're going to do is that now the results, we can console log the results to check if everything comes in here. So let's go to the go to the Blazor here, .NET ASP, go to the logs. This is the backend. So we want to go to the front end and check the logs and see that the data are coming in. So you see the data are coming in. So 16. So Ghana has 16 countries, 16 regions. So you can see this is the beauty of .NET ASP, and it's trying to fetch all the data because we are trying to console log them. So the data is coming in, but the UI is not showing them, right? The count is written. So we have to make sure that this is the correct one that we have. And the reason why it's not coming is that we have changed the name. So let's make sure that we used to have the default name. So our interface should be like this. So the name is supposed to be small letters here, and then it's supposed to be short code. So like what we used to have. So let's go to our interface and make sure that it's look like this, so that what is coming from the backend will match what the interface we have. So basically we can go to the interface in here and then make sure that the name, when we talk of region, the name here should be small. Then let's go to regions. The name here should be small, and this is supposed to be short code. So let's go to the interface and see that this is supposed to be short code so that the data will match in, and we save this. Let's run this. So there is an error coming in because what we did in the home page, there was an error coming from the home page. I don't know, but there is an error coming. Let's run this. Let's check the error, where the error is coming from. We have 4 errors coming in. This, so let's import this. Okay, let's run the application again. Okay, now it's running. Okay, so it's running here. Now let's go back. Let's go to regions here and try to put in Ghana. So Ghana is GH. Let's search. Boom. Now it's coming in. So this is the UI that I designed. So the code is here. It's very simple, and this is, we are not doing any complex stuff here. We are just using the HTTP client to call, to make our API calls. So when the data comes, we then turn it to, deserialize it, right? So, and then because in the back end you can see we trying to serialize it. So when it's coming in, we deserialize it, right? So it's very easy for us to do that. So we can, here we are trying to serialize it object, and then when it's coming in, the browser will try to deserialize it, and then we get the data. We then put in, this is small buttons coming in, right? So we're showing loading and everything. So this is basically it. So when we search, you see we get this card coming in. So I don't know what is. Let's go to the back end and find in more country code. So what is the name of this country? The country code of this is EX. So we can go here and say that, okay, now we want to search for EX. I speak capitality like that. When we make a request, this is the regions under ES, right? So these are the regions under ES, and it's showing in with card and everything. So this is very beautiful. And so the last thing we want to do is we want to work with the currency one, so that when we enter a country code, we'll be able to get a currency coming in. So here we first of all have our home page. Let's refresh that. This is giving us a lot of data coming in, and we are trying to use pagination. Where we go next, we can search, and then here we see that trying to give us region. So when we go here, search for the ES. So here you enter the country code, and then so this is coming from the CountryData Standard package. So if you're working on any data, CountryData related project, this is the right library for you. So let's go back and also work on the currency one. So at the same time, I already have the UI that I built. So I'm going to bring the UI for us to see how it look like. So for that one, it's the same logic, right? So the same logic that I have in here. I'm going to delete this. So we're going to put this one here, and then we're going to bring in currency, because I've not an HTTP client. We can bring in HTTP client here. So one thing that we need to do about HTTP client is that it's not using. So like what we did here, we're going to bring in that into this one too. So let's go here, make sure to delete everything from here, and then we're going to bring in this. Let's bring in this from using system.test.json, and then this is also good. So here we need to make sure that we have name, and as we did for the other one, in here we need to go into the interface and make sure that the currency too, the interface is good. So name should be small letter here coming in, it's not big, and then code should be small, and then we save this. When we come back to the currency here, this error should go away. Okay, now the error is go away. So let's import these things again. Let's bring in that, and then so let's use that and save. So the goal of this one too is that when we search for, when we enter in country code, it should give us a certain kind of the currency of that country, right? So it is same UI. So just a UI. If my UI is not good, sorry for that. You can improve this UI to suit your need, right? But the logic is very easy. So let's try and run this, right? Okay, so we are running this right now, and let's go back. So now let's go to currency. And you can see now we have search button, like the same one that we have here is the same one we have in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in Ghana. So if I don't know the currency of Ghana, you see Ghana is Ghana cedis, right? And this is the code of that one. Let's go for the another country we search for, which is the AS. When I hit in that, like the normally European, Euro, that's what they use. So if we come in and we search for more countries, so and then we get their code, we can go ahead and execute this. It's going to view, so we have this country called DS. That is the country code. So let's go ahead and here trying to, we don't know, maybe we don't know their currency, we put it in here, and then you can see this is their currency and everything. Let's see if they have regions. So let's put in the regions, and these are the region in that country. So this is basically a small UI that I've created, a kind of a UI for you to work with any country related data. So the goal of this video was to teach you how you can build an API and then even consume it using Blazor, right? And then we use the CountryData data standard to create a simple API using the ASP.NET Core, and then using Blazor to consume it through ASP client. And then Blazor is .NET ASP is also helping us to run the application, both of them together instead of running them separately. We are running everything together. So the backend is running at the same time the front end is running, and it's very easy to do that. So in here we have our API. So the UI, you can pick the UI, improve it. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel to learn more about .NET and Azure. If you have comments, drop your comments. If you don't understand anything, I'll make sure that the code is available in the description section, so you can then go and check it out how the UI look like. If you want to improve it, you want to add more logic, you can also check the CountryData Standard and maybe add more functionalities to this API, or follow the same step to create your own API and then consume it using Blazor. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.